We are here today with Gene Cotter. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Certainly, my pleasure.
We are going to do a little interview about billeting, is why you were here today, actually. So we're just going to probably just roll down the questions, then you can ask us questions if you want.
Okay.
It's kind of fun sometimes. How long, I guess, when did you start billeting?
About 7 years ago. And first off, if I'm allowed to ask you questions, do
Yes.
either of you know what billeting really is? Because when somebody called and said, hey, you want to billet? The first thing I had to do was say, I have no clue what billeting even means.
Yes. Well, I mean,
I looked it
I
up
know
one
what
time.
it means. We kind of did a little thing, like
Yeah.
our intro that we did before you came in. We explained it a little bit
Okay.
with housing, and we also have a website. On our website, there's a whole explanation of everything on billeting. So yes, so it's a. What did you think it was? I guess when they said that,
I
did
had
someone
no
just
idea.
call you and say, "Do you want to billet?"
Well, 3 head coaches ago, the person who cuts both of my hairs is good friends with the head coach's wife. And she thought, hey, I know this family and I think they would be great at doing this. And so they called us and said, would you be interested in doing that, being a billet? And so the first thing I did was Google it and say, what the heck is billeting? And found out that basically it means you're a host family.
Yes.
It used to be a military thing, which maybe you covered in your setup.
We did not, but I did Google it one time and I was like, military housing?
Yeah, so if soldiers were in the area that weren't from there, they were temporarily placed with community members, and they were billets. So that's what I had to figure out was, oh yeah, we can host family. That would be great.
Yes. Yeah. I know. I don't know why you don't want to just call it a host family, but that's the billet is the kind of USHL like universal term
Yeah.
for housing. I guess.
I've always kind of wondered if you ask people if they want to be a billet, they don't have a clue what that means. And
Yes.
so whenever I've tried to engage with people, I've said, you want a billet, which means you want to be a host family.
Yes,
So.
you always have to explain. Yes, I could see how that'd be confusing. You'd be like, I don't billet. What is this? Are you gonna shoot me or what's going on? Right? So yes, so that's good. I mean, word of mouth I think is kind of like the biggest kind of way. Like friends in some of our host families, they know someone or try to recommend someone. That's the best kind of way probably to recruit. But maybe Snake and the Rooster.
And get some new ones
We can get
in.
some recruits here from this, so that's good because we are lucky. Hint, hint. See what we did there? So you've been doing this for like 5-7 years?
Yes, yep. Started with Drew Callan, who actually came home on Friday thinking he was on the team. The next day somebody left the university they were at and came back, and he, by Saturday, was no longer a part of the team. Good news, and one of the things I like most, and maybe you're going to go into this, is that I still maintain very close contact with the Callan family.
Oh,
And
awesome.
like last year, my youngest son, who plays for Lehigh, we were up in Madison for a game, and that's where he was from, and so we got together with their family while we were up there. Even though he was only with us for about 6 weeks, we developed that much of a relationship during that time.
Yeah.
That's
So that
awesome.
first time you had to bill it, it was just short-lived and then switch, which, you know, that is kind of a good question to ask, I guess. So you do have to sort of be prepared because these players can get traded at any time. There's trades or injuries, and maybe they go home, or what other various reasons that they like leave the team. So you could have someone for 2 weeks.
Yep. That is the hardest part. As a matter of fact, last year we started the season with Charlie Shane, and he took an elbow in the face playing Tri-City in the first preseason game and got a pretty big concussion, and ended up playing for Janesville last year. And so after he left, we actually had 2 other players that came and stayed with us temporarily. Evan Warner, when he was in town. Actually, Charlie came back shortly before Christmas for a series of games, and Evan was here for a week, and we were actually supposed to have Ben Steeves to close out the season, but that's when there still was a season. And so
The Rona hit.
Everything.
And you're right, that does get to be, you build these ties and then somebody gets hurt or we actually have not been, that I recall, I don't know that we've had anybody traded. We have had a couple. Patrick Polino lived with us for 2 years, and when he ended up having season-ending hip surgery, he had to go home. But
Oh, wow.
so it does get. I mean, that does get hard. But every
Yeah.
single player that's ever lived with us, we continue to be in contact with, and whether they've been here a short time or a long time.
Right.
That's
That's
awesome.
good.
What is it like on the first day, like whether it's all of the players are coming in or you're getting a new player in, what is it like on their first day, like in your home?
Well, I don't know if that would be a better question for me or the players themselves, because
Yeah.
one of the things that we do, and I don't know if everybody does this, is we actually have a FaceTime session or multiple FaceTime sessions with them and their family before they ever come down, so that we kind of give them a video tour of our house and their room and let them know what everything's equipped like. We try to give them the rundown on what Lincoln is and what being a Lincoln Star is all about, because I was one of the original season ticket holders from 1996, but so I've been around the team for a long time, but only in this
Right.
fashion for that period of time. But it's always interesting because the players all want to be so nice when they come. They don't
Yeah.
want to say, and I don't know how it is for you, Lori, you do the same thing, but for us, or do you want me to call you Snake?
Right.
They're interchangeable.
But trying to say, what do you want in the fridge? What do you want in the cupboard? What do you need for
Yeah.
this? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I don't really need anything. And so we've kind of gotten to the place where it's like, all right, cut the crap. I
Right.
know you want something. Don't make me
Yeah.
guess, or you're going to have to go to the grocery store.
Right. Do you
with
want
this.
broccoli or do you want something
Right.
good? Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, it's probably been, it has not been as big of a deal as I would have assumed it would be, and hopefully that's just because of the interactions and the relationships we try to build.
Yeah,
before
I
we
like
get
that
here.
idea, the whole FaceTime, because I doubt all the families do that.
Right.
This year was my first year billeting ever, and so we didn't know what we were doing. But that is kind of a good way maybe to at least get to know them, because there's some families I'm sure never even met the kid until, hey, they're here and they're coming in the house, and you never know if it's like, I think it depends on the kid. Like for me, it wasn't super awkward just because Travis, the relationship we had a little bit. We met at camp, but I could see where it could be a little strange.
Well, and I think if you have
Because you don't know them at all. It's like, here's your house. It's kind of like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Kind of thing.
and being new to it as you were last year, and if there's anybody out there that is looking at becoming a billet or a host family, some of that is, you watch these kids play hockey on the other side of the glass, and you see the hitting, and you see the the pushing and shoving, and occasionally the fight, and you think, oh my God, I want no part of that. But they are so much different
Yeah.
off of the ice than what they are. Some of the biggest fighters that I ever saw on the ice were anything but away from the ice, and it's one of those things. So if any of you have any trepidation about host family, because I don't want any part of it, I have not seen any of them that actually display themselves that way or purport themselves to be that way often.
Yeah, I think that is a big question, is they worry that they're boys age 16 to 20. So I have 2 boys of my own that age, so I know things. Anyway, and then there's hockey, there's the team, they're away from their parents. I feel like some of these kids are a lot more independent maybe than most, because they've had to be, because they've lived away from home. But yeah, that can be a little scary. You're like, oh, this kid smashes people all over the ice. Like, what, are you going to destroy my house or whatever? And I agree, it's not like that.
Yeah.
They have their game face, and then I would think, I haven't done it for years, but for the most part, they're very respectful, and they're all well behaved.
Yeah, they behave in the home the way you want your own children to. Like, I don't think there's ever been a meal in 7 years of doing this where I didn't get a, hey, thanks for dinner, or thanks for lunch, or thanks for this, or thanks for that. My children are like, hey, there's my plate.
Right.
Clean it up.
See
for
you
me.
later.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want. Like for your own kids, you want them to behave better when they go somewhere else, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's good.
But even after they've been with you for a year, like Patrick was for 2 years, and they kind of start feeling like they're your kids, it's still exactly the same. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if they get skated if they don't do that, if they're wearing some sort of a thank you monitor, or
Right.
if they don't say they have to run steps.
Mike's gonna put little bugs
Yeah,
on them.
Yeah, right. So, well, we kind of touched on this a little bit, like, you make them feel welcome because you kind of do the little like FaceTime and all that kind of stuff, so that's good. And then do you feel like it's been pretty easy to make them feel at home? Like, do they fit in right away? Or has there been any that's, it just takes some time maybe to kind of adjust, or?
That's a hard question to answer because I'm like you. I have a junior and I guess a senior and a sophomore at home now, so kind of that same age range. My oldest he works for the Stars in concessions. My youngest is a hockey player, so they have varying. That's the other thing about the players is they aren't just hockey players. They have multiple interests, and so it's maybe made it a little bit easier for somebody coming to our house because we have Xbox and we have things all set up like that.
Things that teenage boys want.
Right, and I don't know how equipped they are. We have not had a high school, like Charlie had already graduated when he was here. We haven't had a high school student, so I really can't speak to that.
Right.
But I do know that they like hanging out together as well, and so, but that's probably no different than the normal high school boy. If I can find someplace else,
they'd rather hang out with their buddies than
or
be with their parents.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like to believe that we always try to do stuff like have the entire team, which sounds, oh my God, that's 23 people. You can get that many people easily in your driveway or your basement or whatever. I mean, we've had car parties or we've had hot dog or hamburger grill outs in the driveway, that kind of stuff, and just so that they know that it's their home. And that's one thing we've tried to do too, is just make sure, here's your key, this is your house. You don't have to worry about the team sets the curfew, etc. So it's not like you're having to walk around and be the and
that's a good thing to note for anyone that's questioning. Like, they're not out till 2 or 3 in the morning. Coach sets the curfew for each night during the week and even after the game and on the weekends. So and they do check-ins, so the coach can call you any minute and say, are they home, are they there, whatever's going on. So you don't have to necessarily be the bad guy all the time, like, you're gonna be home at 10, sorry.
I will say that one of the things you're encouraged to do is set the parameters.
Yeah.
So one of the things we did, or we do every year, is basically say, hey, so here's the thing, we will have dinner at 6 o'clock, for example, and if you're not going to be there, please let us know. Or if you're going to eat, a lot of times they'll go to Chipotle, or they'll go to Noodles, or they'll go to Flame Pizza, or whatever it is, Blaze Pizza.
Yeah.
And so they have a big meal at like 5 o'clock, and it's like, just let me know if you're not going to eat, because I don't want to just scrape things directly into the. And so, or basically, one time in 7 years, I had somebody say, I hear they're doing curfew checks, and will you cover for me? And the answer was, A, you're with your dad, so no, and B, even if you weren't with your dad, no, you're not following the curfew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cover for you. I'm not here to enable you and whatever else. So
because then it's like one of that. You do it once, then they're like, oh, like,
like I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, and it does kind of state that in some of the guidelines. If you look at the information that we have posted and that there's access to, it kind of, the players are also supposed to kind of abide by your house rules. If you say this is kind of the way it works in our house, or this is what we do, or that everybody does the dishes or whatever, it's you know, they're expected to still by the individual home, whatever their house rules are, to abide by those.
And I probably should quit saying I don't know how it is at your house, but at our house it's like, there's a laundry facilities, there's a laundry soap, you're 18 or you're 20 or you're whatever, and whether you do it yourself at home or not, and I'm not saying that we always make them, if we're washing something and have small loads, we may do it for them or whatever, but but
sometimes they haven't learned those things, and they can learn a lot from their host families. Maybe they didn't have to do that at home, and now like, oh hey, I gotta learn how to do laundry now. So it could be a great learning or growing, I guess, maturing experience for them to be in another family's home.
Yes.
Especially like skills like that, getting them ready to go to college where they're not going to have a host family that's there to grocery shop for them and make sure that they have everything they need, but also like not doing their laundry. Like at any college campus, you have to do your own laundry.
And they aren't exactly close enough where they can go home every weekend and
Yeah.
say, hey, Mom, I need my laundry done.
Yep.
Yeah. It's good for them to learn grown-up things. Adulting. They do adulting. So you were kind of talking about getting together and feeding the players, but just on the day-to-day, like, I know what it's like to feed what's your experience with feeding the players?
I think we've been pretty lucky, actually, because we have not had anybody that was very picky or finicky. I've heard some horror stories, not from Lincoln, but from like one of our players played in Des Moines, a couple of them played in Chicago, and maybe it wasn't those teams because I don't want to talk trash about anybody else in the USHL or their host families, but I've heard stories about, well, there's frozen hot dogs in the freezer and have at it if you want to, and those types of things. So we have not really experienced a lot of I don't want this, or I don't want this, or I don't want this. We actually have a food allergy in our family, so we're pretty used to accommodating special needs. That's also why if I ask you, I just flat out, I'm not one to mince words, so I'm like, if you don't tell me what you want or what you need or what you like or whatever, then you're going to get what you get.
Right.
And so we have not experienced that. It hasn't really increased our food budget that much. It certainly has.
Yeah.
When you're feeding, feeding five
that's
people.
just it. Like, not necessarily the picky portion, but the amount of food that they eat.
Right.
And there are somewhat guidelines to, like, yes, you're expected to feed them all their meals, right? As a housing family, that's kind of one of your main responsibilities. Make sure they are fed. They have a nice place to sleep and rest and bathroom and all those kind of things, and to feed them. But yeah, it's not to feed them frozen pizza because they are still athletes and this is what they're doing basically for a living at this point. And they do need to have decent meals.
Yep.
So, but I mean, you can have a decent meal in a lot of different things.
And just so you know, my wife and I both work, so it's not like and they don't exactly get up at time for us to be to work. And so we just make sure that there's, whether it's cereal they like, or there's eggs in the fridge and they know where the pans are, or there's waffles or whatever it is. Same thing for lunch.
Right.
Here's lunch meat or leftovers or whatever it is that's packed. I mean, we've had them go anywhere from people bringing leftovers to the rink and eating between working out and practice to going out every day or whatever it is. But the food is just there. It's no different than it is with your own kids.
Right. You just have to have food available. So you can easily have two working parents and still be a billet
For sure.
family.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And because they are 16 and 20 years old, so they can feed themselves
Right.
if they have to. So it's not like it's a 5-year-old you got kindergartner and taking to school.
And if you're worried about things like, well, they don't have a car, well, the Stars are very good about making sure that they're co-located at least regionally, geographically with somebody who has a car, so you're not the one getting them to practice and you're not wanting the one getting them to the rink for games. And
the coaches are very good about making sure that the billet family is not responsible basically to getting them to practice and where else. Because Travis lived with us, he didn't have a car, but our neighbors, the Holtz, they had 3 players and they have a couple drivers, so we're literally like 2 blocks from them, so they could pick him up. So even with me working here and I come here every day, the practice, I'm at work early, I still didn't have to drive Travis anywhere. He still had a ride and it was still arranged by the coaching staff. So they place them properly to make that work. So you don't have to worry about, do I need to have a car? Do I need to have all these things?
Right.
You need to have a home and you need to provide them with food.
Yes.
So
sounds about right.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite player that you have?
I have to answer that no, because there are probably some that I appreciated more while they were living there, just simply because, well, I'll just be honest, with the younger the player, especially if it's the first time away from home, maybe the more they want to spread their wings out. And
Yeah.
so, maybe the 16, 17, 18-year-olds are a little more. I'm not talking about you, Charlie or Evan. You didn't experience that with you at all. But, but I have noticed, for example, like I said, there have been a couple several years ago that were like, they were maybe a little more, and I'm a hand ringer to begin with, so if the team says that curfew's at 10 o'clock, if you're not home at 9:59, then I'm I always found that the younger players were more likely to bump right up against that curfew or 5 or 10 minutes after than, there were times Patrick beat us home from the rink after games, for example, even though curfew was 2 hours later, he would beat us home from the rink. So, but every single one of the players, as I said earlier, continue to be in touch with all 7 or 8 or 9 players that have ever lived in my house, whether it's been for 2 years or for, I think Evan was here for a week last year, So I don't know. I will tell you, and if you've only had Travis, have a goalie live at your house at some point, because I don't mean that. A lot of people go, yeah, those goalies. I'm not saying that at all. I'd much rather have a forward or a D living at my house, because you're not sitting on the edge of your seat with every shot that goes.
Oh, gosh.
God bless goalie moms and goalie dads and goalie girlfriends.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, that's a brutal position.
When we had Jacob Nahama at our house, he was a goalie, and we would sit there like this every single game, because it just... It's a goalie.
Yeah.
Whether it's the goalie's fault or it's not the goalie's fault, it's kind of like a quarterback in football. It's always the quarterback's fault, whether the team wins or loses.
Yep.
Don't give me a goalie.
Thanks.
Coach Mike's, no goalies.
No goalies for her, because then I have to deal with all the stress.
Yeah.
So
because then I have to have, if I can't watch the game, then I'm like, Sydney has to watch. So my thing is just like, this year was just like, don't get hurt. I don't want to call your parents and tell them that you're hurt.
Well, like the one time Travis was in a fight, you missed it. And I was like texting Laura, I was like, oh my gosh, did you see that? Did you see that? And she was like, no. And then I told her, and she was like, is he hurt? And I was like, oh, he actually did pretty good.
Yeah, I'm like, tell me your face is still intact.
They have about this much space to hit now.
Yeah, I know. I still, do you have your teeth? Don't knock your teeth out.
So, just to be clear, I wasn't bashing goalies, or I'm saying God bless goalies and God bless goalie parents.
When you put it that way, that's very
makes
true.
a lot of
that's
sense,
got to be...
Let's just say you love it when the puck is at the other end in the offensive zone, because then you get to take a breath.
Yeah.
I don't think I could handle that. It's stressful enough. I don't know that I'd want to do that. Yeah. But, I mean, I guess if you've been doing it for so long, at some point you're probably going to end up, you just never know.
Yeah.
And they do like a questionnaire, right? So they place, based on maybe like, you have dogs and they love dogs or whatever. They try to place families that are a good fit based on the kid, because the coaches know the players. They see them before we do. They meet them. They, they kind of have a good sense of, you'd be a good fit here or there, or we'll pair you with this other player in this home. So I think it's they do a good job of that. So
it's interesting when you talk about, was he hurt, because that is the thing. I think maybe not every single player we've had, but the vast majority of them, at some point when you're playing in the USHL, you're going to get hurt. And we've had anything from debilitating hip injuries or concussions or whatever. And I think when Tanner Lazinski was at our house, he had an elbow that just was gross. I mean, and so that's something that we did. I know Corey does a great job of taking care of it, but they're still at home more than they're here. And so when you're changing, and I don't want to scare anybody off, because once again, they become your kids.
Yeah.
And so you want to do, and that's why Sherry and I got into this to begin with, was because I wanted parents, we kind of try to pay it forward in advance, so that we knew. I mean, two of the players we've had were from Buffalo. I mean, that's a long ways from here, and so just knowing that people the parents could relax because they knew that the kids were being
can you
taken care of by the
imagine,
team.
like, if you were away from your own kid and they're hurt and you
Right.
can't do anything about it, like,
Right.
that would be, that is kind of a big deal. Like, even if it's like a minor injury, you still feel like you want to make sure, like.
Yeah. And Corey's always responsive around,
Yeah.
like when Charlie got concussed last year, hey, what do you need us doing? Do you need us watching for anything? And so
Yeah.
it's not like, hey, it's on you. There's,
Whatever, yeah.
the team stays well in touch with you around.
And you're taking care of someone else's kids, so you want to make sure
Yeah.
that they stay safe, right? You don't want to call and be like, hey, I lost your kid in the mall.
Right?
I don't know where he is. He's in the clothes
But
rack
have you
somewhere.
heard from him?
Right, I don't know. Where is he? Right? You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But good.
Aside from injuries, what is the craziest thing a player has done in your house?
In my house?
Or just while they were staying with you?
I'm gonna have a very boring answer there because
Okay.
I honest to God can't think of anything.
Anything negative they've done?
No.
Or funny?
Funny?
Like,
You
maybe
know,
not
just-
necessarily bad, but like,
I think about
they were playing hockey in the house and broke the mirror, or.
See, that hasn't happened. They certainly have played plenty of back when shinny was a thing. You know, they played hours of shinny.
Yeah.
I can think of when my boys were younger, so this would have been one of the first few. I remember them all sitting downstairs with their DSs playing Pokemon on.
Oh gosh,
You know,
yeah.
so I've got like a 8 and a 10-year-old with the 18-year-old that are all hanging out in the basement playing Pokemon on and it's like. But see, I don't
That's
think that's
funny.
cool, or I don't think that that's weird or whatever. I
Right.
just think
No,
that's
it's just
cool
normal,
because
yeah.
it's like, oh, you've acclimated to the family. It's
Yeah.
a good sign. And so I don't.
Especially with younger children, like player coming in to a house without, and like now it's a little bit different because you both have kids around the same age as our players, so that's a little bit of a different relationship. But players being able to get along with your 8 and 10-year-old, like
Yeah.
you don't want someone in your
plenty of families that have younger kids.
Oh yeah.
Sure. And I don't know, one of the things that we've made our kids well aware of is that part of the reason we do this is they are Lincoln Stars and they have public appearances that they have to do and they're under the lights on Fridays and Saturdays and sometimes Tuesdays and Sunday afternoons and whatever. We want an atmosphere when they're at home, they're at home. So
Right.
like I said, they can check the hockey at the door. We're not in their face about what happened here and what happened there. And the boys don't get to bring the neighbor people over to say, oh look, here's a Lincoln
Right.
Star. And
Yeah.
I hope that that's what goes on everywhere. I don't know that
Right.
it does, but that's my hope is that.
Because they do
That's-
need to relax. So if they had a bad game or a bad weekend,
Yeah.
they may just
Yeah.
want to go home.
Which, by the way, when we talk about setting stuff up, that is one of the things we always talk to our players about is, all right, so after the game, whether it's a good game or bad game, are you go in, shower up, get out, or you
Right.
like to cool down, ride the bike for a while, shower, hang out, do whatever. So just, again, some ground rule stuff. But just that has been really, I think, big for us too.
Yeah. Because I mean, they're still young kids. They still have.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have bad days like the rest of us, and they may just want to be able to go home and chill,
Yep.
do whatever they want to do, and not have to be bombarded with what happened in the game or this or that or whatever else. So, you kind of touched on it a little bit. So some of these kids that you've had, do you still, like if they still play hockey, if they go off to college or NHL or whatever they go off to, do you try to make a trip? Do you see them and go play at the next level, or?
You know, that is one thing that whether it's our player, like Patrick ended up at RPI, and they never got anywhere close to here. And so
Yeah.
would I have liked to have gone? Drew ended up playing for Bentley in Boston and never got anywhere close to here. But like when Jacob Nahama played at Colorado College, when they were playing at UNO, we absolutely went over there and saw him. Earlier this year, as I talked about, we were up in Madison, and I got to hang out with actually Drew's parents, but his brother was playing for Clarkson, and that's who Wisconsin was playing, and so I didn't get to see anybody that lived with us, but Dominic Mersch was not a regular at our house, but he was at our house multiple times when Patrick was there. So we connected with Don while we were up there, and that was much appreciated. And so, unfortunately for us, a lot of the kids, like Tanner Lazinski is at Ohio State. I kept hoping that they were going to play at UNO, but some of what prevented us from doing that is we were traveling with our own kid playing hockey so much that we didn't get to go see.
Yeah, it's hard if they're like so far away.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So the good news for us and like Tyler Johnson, who was with us, was the goalie a couple years ago for the Stars, is playing in Canada, and so they never get down here. So.
Right. And that's, you mentioned that too, that even if you have a player that's your player that lives with you, but the other players come over and visit. So like we got to know Barb's and Sarlo like really well because they were always over because they were just down the street. So you build some relationships with some other kids even though they don't live with you. So that's that's nice. So if they were close, you can go see them play or whatever.
I watch a lot of RPI and a lot of Colorado College on. I follow the College Hockey Network. I watch a lot of games on either My Hockey or just through the individual universities. Like I can't tell you how many RPI games I watch. Well, there's several former Stars playing for RPI. There's several playing at Ohio State, so the Big Ten Network. So you track them, whether it be on Twitter or Snapchat or through whatever the different hockey networks are. I get to see them play a lot, but unfortunately just not in person.
And when it's hockey season, you're working for us.
Right.
Yeah. So like, you're busy.
Right.
So, I know, I get it. So, but Ohio State, play UNO.
Please.
In Omaha.
That'd be super great. Were you an off-ice official or a billet first? I don't know if I know this.
I was actually a billet first, and I was sitting here, I don't remember, it seems like maybe it was after the ice was all out at the end of one season, or maybe it was during the preseason, and somebody asked me, and it was the same thing. Well, I don't know, what does that mean? So next thing I know, I'm sitting in the penalty box. And that was back when we didn't even have glass on the penalty box doors, and that was. I sometimes wish that I still didn't have glass there because it would be
but did you get nailed in the face with a puck?
You know what? I worried about getting nailed in the face with the puck. Pucks ended up being the least of our worries in there.
I was sitting there,
and the sticks that would, when somebody would get checked, the stick would come down. I remember the very first game, I'm sitting here thinking, all right, where are the puck's going to come from? Somebody got checked, and I ended up with the blade of the stick about right here, literally right there.
Oh my gosh.
That was, for those of you watching at home, that was about that far from the tip of my nose. Did not hit me, but throughout the course of the season, got hit in the leg, got hit in the shoulder, got hit wherever, and the people that would always sit in the seats right to my right would be, they'd be watching the penalty boxes, because between Lemke and I getting checked in there, we're always like dancing.
What are you doing?
I'm sure you guys have a lot of interesting stories. We already talked to Dave, so we thought maybe we'd have an off-ice officials podcast, talk about all the dirt, get all the fun behind the scenes, because I've heard some things in the penalty box before, so
it gets really interesting.
It's a little interesting in there sometimes. So there's some fun stories, I'm sure. Yes. Dave's been doing it for forever. Like, or a long time. So, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Stay tuned.
Yes. Let's see, where are we at?
Somewhere down here.
Have you? Fun trips. Have you ever taken any fun trip? Oh, that was Billy. We already did that one. How about any like fun things with your family? Is there anything like you guys do? Like Sundays is board game day, or is there any sort of like family activities that you like to do with the players?
I could tell you that nothing that we really schedule all the time, because once again, their schedule, especially in the season, gets so busy that Sunday seems to be down day, and so we're just trying to be quiet and
and they are gone a lot. It's amazing. They're busy.
Yeah. I will say that one of the things that we try to do is, because I think everybody knows, they get a Christmas break, a holiday break, but generally they're back the day after Christmas, and usually they're here. Sometimes, it seems like most of the time we're playing Sioux City or somebody on Thanksgiving, but always just trying to, one of the things we always do is try to make sure that we have, what are your traditions at home? So we just try to make sure that, like I have from the Polinos, I have this amazing meat stuffing recipe it's a Sicilian meat stuffing, which has now become a staple at our Thanksgivings because they brought it to our house as something that Patrick would have had at home. And I probably didn't make it the way Grandma did, but I made it. It's now a mandatory thing at our house. And
yeah. Well, and you even, where did you go? You brought back some stuff for Travis.
I actually have,
So
I'm from Stromsburg, which is the sweet capital of Nebraska, and I have many neighbors who have Swedish or Norwegian exchange students every year. And so there was actually a Swedish exchange student living in my neighborhood who I think went home and left some Swedish delicacies, chocolates and candies and some other stuff, some
Travis
canned
loved
fish
candy.
or something like that.
Yeah, he did.
And so they brought it to me.
There was some weird like licorice stuff, but
Yeah.
Travis loves candy and sweets, so it was all fine. But that was one thing too. So Travis is from Sweden. He brought, when he came over, he brought chocolate, a ton of chocolate. And then if his family, they did come and visit a couple times, and it's always like, we're out of chocolate. Like, bring more chocolate. So they always bring chocolate. So my kids loved that because it was just like always sitting on the counter, and everyone would just take like a little brick out of it all the time.
Yeah.
So the problem for like Travis or Gustav Westland, who was also from Sweden, is when they sit in the box with me, I'm asking them stupid stuff like, so do you like lingonberries? Do you like, they're probably looking at me like, you're a
What are you
whack job.
talking about?
Did you Google that?
Don't talk to the whack job in
Don't get in the penalty box. They're gonna ask you weird questions. It's trivia session. I think you should start doing the penalty box. It's like do like Trivia Pursuit in the penalty box or something.
I've thought about that, bringing a little TV in there, and especially on a fight, you get a 5 and a 10, and they're sitting there, and you only have so much. Well, first off, we'll save that conversation for penalty box day.
Yeah. So then we can get the good stuff.
Yeah.
What else? Where are we at?
We've covered like all of our questions. Yeah.
Is there anything we didn't cover about billeting that if no one had ever done it before would maybe want to know? Like, I guess what the biggest thing is, so we talk about this and they're busy and the food and all the stuff, but like, we talk about the relationships, but like really, like it's a fulfilling, like, I guess how do you feel about it? Like having them there, it's a really good experience.
I will tell you this. So you asked earlier about have I gone to watch them play, and with the exceptions that I already gave you, no, but I have been to Colorado Springs and seen Jacob. We actually specifically took a vacation to Buffalo and hung out with the Polinos for a week, and we would take trips, and that's just a couple of the examples of it. So the relationships that you build with, I continue to be in touch with Patrick's dad, for example. I had a conversation with Charlie Shane's dad a couple days ago about how things are going. Charlie's from Minneapolis, and so just checking in with him to see how are things going up there, how are you guys doing. They're doing the same with me. Ben Steves, who never even made it down here last year because of whatever, his parents are in the medical profession, and so checking in with them, and so that is the interactions that you have with the players and the families and the lifelong relationships that I think they're lifelong, because like I said, Drew Callan lived with us for about 5 minutes and still in touch with them, and the entire family is the best part of all of it.
Yeah,
and
you meet some really good people.
Yep, for sure. And let's see, the other thing about it is, and we didn't talk about this, I'm not sure that my experience, actually I am sure, I know that my experience as a host family is not what I hear other people's are. And what I mean by that, and I know in conversations with you, Snake, and with Ryan, and with whatever, there is a concerted effort going into developing the billet program to bring, because a lot of people are like, if I'm being completely honest, and you were talking earlier about food, and I kind of danced around this a little bit, because the stipend you get doesn't probably cover the...
Well, hey, we got to be honest about what it is. You're not making money doing this.
No.
And We're not hiding that.
Right, and if you're in it to make money, then don't even think about it. As a matter of fact, I think I told you this previously. I would much rather just don't even worry about the money because I don't care about it, and it maybe even makes it a pain in the butt because then it's like, well, did I get? I probably worry about things that other people don't worry about, but
it
makes sense.
But you're right. It's don't do it for the money.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're in it for the money, then you're in it for the wrong reason because you're not making money. You're probably spending money.
Yeah.
But again, if it's about the relationships, it's about paying forward. As we said, I have a senior and I'm about to send my kid. He wants to go to school in New Mexico or Arizona or Wyoming, which isn't very close to here.
Right.
So, he's talked about going to do an externship at NASA. Well, that doesn't happen in Lincoln, Nebraska either. And so I hope that I have somebody that I can send my kids to live with if they end up needing a billet family someplace.
Yep.
And that family is going to take care of my kids the way I'm trying to take care of theirs. And so that's a big reason why we have done this.
Exactly.
But back on the other thing, I know that in talking to Ryan, that's Ryan Schiff, the Stars owner, and talking to the organization, there are concerted efforts around making the billet program, I don't want to say more worthwhile because it's worthwhile, but I know that you went.
No, there's definitely room for improvement. So I mean, we're working on some other things. We've got some private like Facebook groups going so we can be in touch and communications. It's hard with what are the kids doing, where are they going, and there's so many families and so many players and their schedule's crazy. So we're trying to come up with better ways to communicate to everyone.
And I know you did a ton of work, and there was going to be a big party for the billets, current, former,
so sad.
Hopefully future billets that we get in here this year, and that the Rona took that out too.
Yes, we had a big fun billet night planned and a dinner,
huge.
And we were inviting like past billet families back, and we had a whole fun night plan and a new experience for billets to actually be on the ice with the star drop and the lights, and they get to feel what it's like to be there. And so we had a lot of really good things that got kiboshed, but next season we're doing it.
No Rona, down with
no
Rona.
Rona.
Stay away,
Next
Roni,
year.
because we got to get this back.
Yeah.
But so we are trying to build the program. We know there's some room for improvement, so we're definitely working on that. We're always open to suggestions. And look, if something's not right or it's not good, like we can't fix it if we don't know, if we don't like it. But
Exactly.
So let me ask you, what are the parameters? What do you want in a billet family? What can't you be to be a billet? Because I think that there's some questions out there about, are there any rules around age of children that are in the house?
There's not any rules to that, but I mean there is a home check. So you fill out an application, and then our billet coordinator and the coach, one of the coaches, they do come out and visit your house, because I guess there is some rules to make sure that, I'll take a player, but where's he sleeping? I have a recliner. Well, that's not sufficient. They need to have a room and a bed, basically, and then also access to a bathroom. So they don't have to have their own by any means, but they have to be able to obviously use one. You can't be like, sorry, we have a porta potty outside, you go into that or whatever.
Here's a bucket.
Use that. So there's no limit. Your house doesn't have to be so big or so nice or so fancy, but you have to have a room and a bed for them to sleep on. So it's not like, we do make sure it's like, hey, there's a room downstairs where you're sleeping on in a sleeping bag on the floor. Like, they still need to be, think about it. If it's your kid, how would you want them to live if they were with someone else? So there's not a whole lot of like major requirements. You need to be, whoever's wanting to do the billeting needs to be willing for the commitment. It is a long season, and you need to be available. You know what I mean? You need to have the house available to them. You can't be like, I go off to Florida for 3 months in the winter. Sorry. Well, then they can't stay there without someone, so then they get moved again. So, you have to just make sure that you're willing to you know.
We didn't talk about that. That is something. So if you go out of town for family vacation for the holidays and the team is back on the day after Christmas and you're traveling, they'll put the player at somebody else's house
Right.
during that time. So you don't have to worry
So
about
you
that.
can take a vacation.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you don't generally, we've been in several situations where it's fine. I trust them at my house. Let them stay there. And the team has said, I trust them too, but
Right.
we're not going to do that. So again, if anybody was worried about, I travel with my kids' travel team or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of workarounds, and other families and other billet families would take an extra player for, you're going on vacation for a long weekend. Sure, they can come stay with us.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have to be like so strict you can't go anywhere ever if you're on this. But there's still, you have to be willing to know, like from the end of August, pretty much. They're usually here by August 31st, and then if we're into playoffs, they could be here until late May.
Right.
So you just have to be available in that time frame. So other than that, yes, you get a monthly payment, so to speak. But again, like you said, that
Well, it's better than a sharp stick in the eye.
it sure is. It helps offset the cost basically for groceries and for food and for things they need, but it's meant to offset it. It's not meant to this is the amount of money you get every month, and so that's all the food you get. Sorry, you didn't have enough food for the rest of the month. That's not how that works.
You get a discount in face-off sports. You get
all the season ticket holder. So there are some perks to it.
Yeah.
You do get season tickets. So you get a pair of season tickets. So you can come to every single game and watch the kids. You get all the season ticket holder benefits, which include lots of discounts throughout. Concessions, face off, the whole list.
Yeah.
Whatever season ticket holder perks are, that's what you get as a billet too. So that's
and as
another
we're
nice thing.
kind of revamping and revisiting how we can make this program better, we're trying to find other things that we as a staff can do to say thank you or give or things like that.
Well, we also did try to we actually partnered with Granite City to do this whole billet dinner and all these things that didn't happen because it got canceled. So we were in the works of doing that.
Yeah.
And hopefully the communication is a whole lot better with our private Facebook page. So if you're a billet, you're in that. And so that way you can ask questions of other billets and you have access to every family all the time. And plus, Coach could say, curfew's midnight, boom, it's in there. And everybody knows, just like that, instead of did it go here, did it go there, did you get the email, did you not? So there's definitely some things we're hoping to work on and improve. And Coach Mike's did a lot of the billeting program last year, so now, he's got a really good handle on all that, so that's really helpful too. So hopefully we can
make it
better.
super great. Yeah.
super great. That's
super great. Yeah.
Great. Technical terms here.
Technical terms.
One last question. What's it like, just because I know how terrible it is. Maybe it's not the same for you guys, but what's it like when they leave? When the player leaves at the end of the season?
I don't know that it's any worse or better for guys than what it is. I could tell you that there's that hollow spot when you come around the corner and that car's not parked in front of your house if your player's had, or all of a sudden that room is empty or whatever the case is. I mean, to a certain degree it's like, I have my house back, but it's more, damn, I have my house back. And
Yeah.
it's,
So you didn't bawl for like an hour when they left, or is that just me?
not that I'm going to admit on video.
I'll take that as a confession.
Right. Don't edit that.
Yeah, like I
it's
said,
tough.
over the course of the year, even if they were just there for a short time, you developed. I mean, they live with you. And
Yeah.
it's not like it's no different. I've noticed this with my 17-year-old. It's like, why don't they ever come out of the room? Well, my own 17-year-old doesn't come out of his room. And
Right.
I think he likes us. I think, and
Yeah.
so you know, but yeah, it's an empty spot in your family, and that.
Yeah.
But it's also your family just grew as
Right.
well. So
Right. Yeah. It's definitely difficult, but it's not a reason to not do it and gain the experience just because of the sadness that it
Yes.
brings when they leave.
Yep.
But all right, I think that's it. Anything
Yeah.
else for us?
Not that I can think of.
All right.
I appreciate the Snake and the Rooster inviting me on, though.
Yes.
This is
Yeah, no,
Thank
thank
you.
you for
Fantastic.
coming.
Got some good info. Hopefully, we answered a lot of questions about
Yeah.
building if somebody was concerned.
And
or
I am more than happy
questions.
to, if somebody wants to reach out to me and ask questions directly.
We'll
Unfortunately,
just put Gene's cell phone number right
Yeah,
across the bottom for
perfect.
everybody to see. No, don't do that.
474 *.
There you go. Do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had a couple of billet information nights that occurred right around the time the Rona hit too,
Yeah.
and so we didn't get the
Yeah.
traction out of those that we wanted or needed. But
Right.
That
yeah.
darn Rona.
Yeah, hopefully that's another one of those things that we can kind of do is somehow have some sort of, well, at the party we were supposed to have in March, that was another kind of to get people to ask questions and learn more and see how it's going and get information and meet with other families so they can ask questions, and that didn't happen. So, but we are always here. You can call us. Gene would be more than happy to talk to anybody about building. I'm sure Patty, she's our billet coordinator, would be happy to talk to anybody. There's some information on our website. Coach, I'm sure would even be glad
Yeah.
to talk to any family if they had any questions, or if you have a concern, if you're worried. I have a pet pig. Can I have a player or whatever? If you have any weird
I
questions,
think the players would love a pet
that'd be
pig.
so amazing. I would love a pet.
I was
pig.
going to make a bacon joke, but that might be it.
Right. I know. It's like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a pig right now because people are needing pork.
And keep in mind, if anybody has any concerns, I guess I was just sitting here thinking about safe sport and
Yep.
record checks and those
You
types
do have
of
to
things.
do those to background checks and
Right.
say sport. Yep.
And I don't know that that applies to the players, but what I do know is just like anything else, coaches and general managers and owners aren't out looking to bring players into their organization and placing them in homes that are going to be causing trouble and
Right.
that kind of stuff. You know,
Yeah.
that's something that we always do. Is I always go stock all the social media I can find before I say, yeah, I'll take that player to my
Right.
Yeah.
house, because there's been a couple times over the years where like, and guess what? Those players never even made it here,
Right.
just simply because of some of that. So
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is I think the quality of player, individual, young man that you're going to get assigned to your house to get to be an extended member of your family is pretty well vetted before
Right.
they even make it here.
Yeah, we've had some pretty good kids
Yeah.
that come through here, so that's nice. And so yeah, I guess I didn't touch on that. You do have there's a background screening, obviously for reasons, and then Safe Sport. Everyone has to do that. You get a little certificate, and you get a little you gotta get a USA Hockey registration, but that's free. The Safe Sport's free. All of it's free to do. And you gotta do a little test online and do all that, but it's doable, and I think it's good for like 3 years.
I hope
now.
it's 3, because if it's 3, I have one more year. If it's 2, then I have.
I
to
think
do it
it's
again.
good for 3 years now, unless they change it. You know how they always change stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
at least only every 3 years gotta do that. So
Perfect.
not too bad. Pretty easy. So okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Certainly.
We'll be back
We'll
for
see you again for
Off
the
Ice official day.
Sounds
We'll get the
sounds great.
goods.
I'll
Okay.
lose the tie for that one.
All right.